I will now call the meeting to order at 7:32. We are missing our clerk, so give him 1 second to join. Your phone number to call?
Yes, there's I actually smushed in the information into the agenda that was setting up health changes. To put the calling information on the bottom because I have a deal, so that's right. Yeah. 312-626-6799.
1 moment. Lily's gonna love the lab. when she puts it on low.
Oh, just keep things down. Well, definitely.
Call the roll. Here.
Kate Castello-McNally.
Here.
Trustee Danielle Rubin.
Here.
Trustee Stephen Mulder.
Not present.
Trustee Elliot Robbins.
Here.
Assessor Jan Churchwell.
Here.
And Deputy Clerk Administrator Hopkins.
Here.
Fantastic. Madam Supervisor, we have a quorum for business.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Jerome, would you like to stay on, or would you like me to appoint the deputy assessor?
Stay on through the end of the clerk's report, if that's okay for you.
Sounds good. We'll hold you up. All right. Supervisors reports. Oh, I hope I cover everything I'm supposed to. Okay, it was a busy month. I was able to attend the Age Options Legislative Breakfast at North Shore Senior Center, which was a great event with various stakeholders, nonprofit stakeholders, governmental work, especially with the newest state rep covering the Skokie area, who I hope to work, who has already proven to be a great friend of Townships, carrying the bill that Bonnie, the supervisor over at Niles, and I and supervisor at Northfield are all pushing to allow us some additional flexibility. Also, we had our center sponsor. So both our House sponsor and our center sponsor were there. So that was nice to thank them in person for their work on that bill. It was also interesting to see the demographic information that was offered regarding the increase in seniors and the need for age options and various services. I'm happy to pass on the PowerPoint to anybody who's interested. And I also encouraged those present to take a look at additional legislative endeavors pending in the General Assembly, including the paid insurance program, which would certainly help people who do need to care for seniors, because there were a lot of discussions about providing funding for unpaid caregivers for seniors. But also those who are in the workforce and even take time off should also be covered as well. the community support grants went out. And as you see, we've been getting a lot of thank you notes. I was able to include a couple in your board packet. Those are confidential, obviously, so keep them as such. But I think you can see the tangible impact that those community support grants have had on our community. And that was a sampling of the positive notes that we've received. We also had a nice meeting regarding the future of Warming House. And I am optimistic that the program will not only survive but thrive in its new nonprofit home. Once that is official, the official announcement will go out. I know there was a little bit of a snafu where the potential partner was named during the last meeting. Please do not, that's not complete, it's not done. We will not have it in our meeting minutes, and we will ensure that but we wish that potential pairing luck as they finish up that process. We signed our third checks, so your final set of financials include all of our agency allocations. So very exciting, because in the past we've done that after the fiscal year ended, and that was not the best for reconciliation. So those went out, and I was able to hand deliver the check to our place because I went with Steve to go visit our place's renovation. It is amazing. I highly recommend taking a look. It was my former polling place, so I remember what that basement looked like. And it's fabulous. We really have a gem in our community. And started with our seed funding, and really an example of what townships can and should do. We also were able to synergize with them. We're going to be putting some of the participants' art up in here as well. And we are going to also have performances from their choir at the town meeting. So very excited for that. Update on the pantry. We are starting a menstrual cup pilot. So this was kind of inspired by what Niles is doing right now with their period poverty initiative. They're asking people to sponsor period products as a part of their food pantry. We thankfully have a good amount of money in our angel fund, and we are going to use that to offer reusable menstrual products. So hopefully, if we see that they go and they're used, we will be able to continue to stock those. Because obviously, if people don't have proper menstrual products, it takes them out of the workforce and takes them out of school, and can be a hindrance to economic development and simply participation in civic life. So I'm excited for that as well. Legislative update: the bill regarding using child care responsibilities as a reason for remote participation under the Open Meetings Act got out of committee, and that was unanimous. So I'm very excited about that. It'll go on to the full House and then the Senate. Similarly, both the Senate version and the House version of the bill allowing us general assistance flexibility made it out of committee as well. There was some pushback from some of the members of committee about one of the changes was also to ensure that we could give general assistance to those who had a previous felony for drugs. Right now, we cannot. It had about a year or two ago, they had changed TANF to allow you to give funds to those who had previous felonies. And we were simply trying to ensure that it was consistent. I think it was an oversight that it wasn't changed in the general assistance portion of the code. And we did receive some pushback. People were concerned about misuse of general assistance. Bonnie did a great job testifying and pointed out that general assistance funds are not given as just cash assistance, right? We give to vendors rather than, carte blanche. So hopefully those two will go forward. But especially if you have any connections in law enforcement, we're trying to gather additional letters of support that this is not only, not a concern, but also a benefit to ensure that those who are coming out of, who are re-entering society are not harmed by, the lack of funds for the most basic needs, right? So that's legislative. The statement of economic interest you should have received in your emails. Sadly, it doesn't keep your previous answers, which would have been really nice, I think. But it did take me not too long, so I don't have as many assets. But do note that if you do not complete that, you can lose your office. So I highly recommend doing so. And the instruction sheet that is attached, that is linked to that statement of economic interest, provides important guidance on what is actually considered an asset, because you'll see that many things are exempted.
So there are two different ones. There's the information sheet, and then once you start clicking through, there's actually a separate link to definitions,
yes,
which includes exclusions.
Right.
It's a funny way to say that, but
yes,
that's helpful.
And sometimes it'll say, if this doesn't apply, please say none, and then there'll also be a box saying doesn't apply.
Yeah.
So it's just for creating a form, but I had to put none, so I put none instead of clicking the button. Not up to me. We did have a gas leak that I wanted to bring up to the board, just so you know what happened. We had a leak at the attachment between the boiler and the gas pipe. It was, as far as I can tell, for gas leak, small. We evacuated the building. The gas company came out and was able to turn off the gas. Then we were able to get it fixed that week. So there is no current danger. And that's, we were able to get it addressed.
How was it detected?
It was detected by the worker doing work on the back room, on the
Asbestos?
doing asbestos remediation. Yeah.
Did he possibly knock something or?
Think so, though it was kind of a, at a juncture point. But yes, the guy from Nightcore came out and turned it on.
And then they fixed the connection?
Yes.
Excellent.
Exactly. We did have, the initial guy had said that we needed to replace all the gas pipes. Second guy said no.
That was my office.
So yeah, he said basically they don't build them like that anymore, and good job. So we'll keep that, because I did ask if the boiler was going to need replacing in the near future, and he said, yeah, that's good. And Larisha did remember that
Our boiler is relatively new.
in the grand scheme of our building,
Right.
1910, whatever building. I think that is everything. Any questions on supervisor's report? Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from February 14th. Is there a motion?
I only have one.
But first,
sorry.
Any second? Second. All right, Danielle Rubin. Discussion.
Page 406.
Yeah.
In the public comment section, we talk about the Winnetka Youth Organization. In two places, we use the acronym WYO, and in one place, just YO.
Aha.
So I think you just need to fix that.
Yeah, we'll keep it WYO.
Okay.
That is my understanding is to their preferred acronym. Additional discussion? I had a couple of notes. Was it for the approval of the minutes in the last meeting? Was it you though? Because I think Jerome had already left by that point.
Jerome did leave.
Okay, so I changed that to Deputy Clerk Hopkins presented. Okay, so that's that. In that first paragraph, there was a misspelling of let is led.
Okay.
Yep, easy. I did a little bit of wordsmithing in the assessor's report section after the discussion.
Okay.
So essentially, Christy Moser asked about requested medical reimbursement in line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in the line that starts Deputy Assessor Shiplet joined the discussion and mentioned that there was a verbal agreement. I said that he believed there was a verbal agreement.
Okay.
I deleted the first reference, a lengthy discussion ensued regarding deputy assessor's insurance, because 2 lines later, we just say discussion ensued between deputy assessor Shiplet. Wait. Oh, here, because here it says discussion further ensued regarding deputy, so it's redundant.
Okay.
Same deal. More just then after the Medicare Supplement Act, which charges nominal fees, more discussion ensued, and Supervisor Eisenberg recommended deputy assessor Shiplet seek legal counsel regarding the insurance issue. It should be it's the tax treatment of the insurance issue.
Okay.
Then it's instead of there should be a separate EIN, it would be there could be a separate EIN. We don't make any value judgments. But that benefit approval needs to come from Assessor Churchwell.
Okay.
The last sentence, Township Administrator Hopkins explained how the current township, how the township covers current employees on Medicare supplements.
Okay.
Instead of how they're reimbursed, because as we discussed, we don't actually reimburse, we pay directly to Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see that paragraph completed as well when it's completed. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So those are just making that more specific.
What page is that?
That's on page 3, and I'll hand this to you. And I'll hand it to Jan as well. On page 5, instead of Supervisor Eisenberg moved to entertain a motion, requested a motion to adopt the agency allocation. And that's my edits, but let me give this to Jan. Any other discussion? Make sure that that comports with your recollection. Good. It looks accurate too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any additional discussion? Seeing none, calling the question. All those in favor of approving the minutes as edited, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, they'll be approved, and I'll take the edits back so I can hand them to Lori when you're so. Okay. Clerk's reports. Clerk Coyne.
To join you guys, even if it's on the telephone. And tonight's report will present the agenda
Please.
for the detailed town meeting, the tentative agenda, and then I want to give you some more details.
Yeah.
So the first item would be to approve the tentative agenda, which is in your electronic and paper packing.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. The date is wrong.
That would be important.
I believe that that's the 11th that we're talking about, not the 13th.
Yeah.
It is. It is. That's a good check.
I also wanted to be sure that in the section regarding public comments and questions, that we, to the degree that we have any timing or procedural thoughts, that we are being clear ahead of time and either posting those on the website in the appropriate, length of time, or letting folks know so that we don't have any issues on the day of.
So I would suggest we put an asterisk there and then link to our current public comment policy, which is on the website.
Okay.
And that's also covered the rules and procedure.
Yes.
Was approved by the elector.
Any additional discussion?
On the current policies on our website, what are the time constraints?
I believe it is a 3-minute limit per person. And it can be increased by a vote of the board.
I think 3 is perfect for a town meeting.
I think so.
And are we going to cap the total length of time for public comments?
That is a good question. I think that's up to the moderator. So see how it says adoption of rules and procedures.
Mhm.
Traditionally, we've left that to the moderator.
Sure. You know, my issue is if we have 10 people at 3 minutes, that's already a half an hour. If they take the full time, if there are any answers being provided by, you know, the supervisor or anybody else, there's going to be passing time in between, you know, people. I just want to be very sure that this is intended, this is as intended on being a place, you know, for, you know, fulsome discussion, but not grandstanding.
Right.
The problem at the last meeting though was that the issue of the time element was what became the issue.
Yeah.
It's like
Well,
that.
all the more reason that we get that nailed down
Yeah.
a month prior, so that we're all very clear.
I don't think it's up to the moderator. I think it's up to us.
So the current policy is a max of 30 minutes.
Okay.
So,
That sounds
which
good.
is why I believe we adopted this after the last annual meeting to avoid this becoming a problem.
And so, Gail, what happens if not everyone has had an opportunity to make a public comment that wanted to, and we're past that 30-minute mark?
The chair or a majority of public body members present may extend public comment beyond 30 minutes and may allow any such additional time to be heard during new business.
I think what we have to do is have a written document available at the beginning of the meeting. And then also remind people of the rules before that portion of the meeting opens. So that way we've been completely transparent. If you've got a big group of people assembled that want to do something, you guys have a little bit of time to figure out who your spokespeople are going to be and maybe delegate your time to them. But I think if it's in writing and it's handed out to everybody at the beginning, it's going to be very hard for them to voice a significant objection.
Is it worth having, I think that's a really good idea. Is it worth having a, rather than, you know, queue up here, is it worth having flash, is it legally permitted for us to have a sign-up sheet?
You can have a sign-up sheet as long as it's not, as long as it's content neutral.
Yeah.
There is some debate as to how far ahead you have to require the sign-up. So if it's at the meeting, I think you're kosher.
So maybe at the front door, we could even do that.
Because when you come in, remember, they're gonna have to check that they're an elector, right? So that would be the perfect place.
Right.
That's how, you know, New Trier High School does it. They do have a sign up, and Winnetka does it that way as well.
And hand out just a very small piece of paper with the rules.
So I believe we're gonna have it printed on the back of the brochure.
Great idea.
Okay, any additional discussion? So I did want to just highlight the Cook County United Against Hate resolution. So that is also in your board packet. Our speaker at the town meeting will be Commissioner Scott Britton, who has been the impetus behind the Cook County Against Hate program. And he will speak about, you know, the incidences in our community that caused him to start that program, which includes a pledge and also a resolution that he asked government bodies in Cook County to adopt. I thought it would be fun for the electors to do it. So it's not from us, it's from the electors of New Church Township, especially since he'll be there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So essentially, they get something to do with their special cards they get. All right, so that's that. Okay. Seeing no additional discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor of adopting the agenda as revised, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the agenda has been adopted. And we will have that posted to our website.
And Keith, I'm delighted because that will be my first debut event. Following my therapy, I'm doing rehab therapy, and so I'm delighted. Very appreciative to Lucia, Gail, Jean, and Julie. All four of them have helped me in numerous ways, especially planning this annual town meeting. And you know, anybody who knows this is very special for me and of course for the township. And so I've appreciated their help in everything. We have a great location. We have it's gonna be a meaningful, good speaker. We have everything set up. It should be a very memorable, good evening for the township. If you look at some of the details, I've invited trustee Kitzel McNally to give the trustees report this year. And then we'll everything else is pretty much standard. It's the way it goes, except for we have our guest speaker this year. And then with the awards, we only have 4 this year, but there'll be 4 good ones. And I'm particularly excited about the last one. I've asked Elliot and Stefan and Danielle to say things about working with Brian and how deserving he is for that Georgie Noise. To explain too, you might be wondering, well, Pat Cantor was a former trustee and two-term supervisor in many, many years, and her husband was a staple with her. He was also a very generous philanthropist and community person for New York Township. And so I thought it'd be nice to have just passed away this year to honor them posthumously with the Harriet Hahn Lifetime of Service. And any of you who know Harriet Hahn know to have an award with her name on it or Georgie Noise on it, those are very, very special. And we're also going to be honoring Tony's Pharmacy, and I've asked Jean Roger to present to them, and then Brian will honor the retiring band member. So that's about it. It's going to be a good meeting. Looking forward to being with you all.
Jerome, quick question. On the award to Piet and Sandy, are we going to invite one of their children to attend, or their mother?
Yes, one of their daughters I would like. So I hope they get involved just like John Thomas's son did.
Yes,
if they can. I think still getting the award and then giving it to the family. But yes, I'm going to be trying to get in touch with one of their children.
that would be good, and then extend the invitation, of course, to the entire family. We'd be honored if they would all show.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also, Elliot, I'm just very excited for you to talk about all of Brian's pioneering work with peer jury, and I think Stefan knowing Brian so many years, and Danielle, your service as trustee, I think it would be sweet for the 3 of you to talk about how special the community services administrator role has been with Brian.
Jerome, we will definitely collaborate, the 3 of us, and we'll have a nice presentation.
Fabulous. Elliot, I know the way you speak is going to be great, and Stefan and Danielle, and Kate, you can always say something too, but I thought that with you presenting for the trustees, it would be nice to involve the other trustees with this. And Gail, you're always welcome to say something in honor of these people, of course. It's one of my favorite parts of the evening, and so that's it. This is motivating me to keep working in my rehab therapy. The excitement about having such a good one this year.
Absolutely, we're excited too.
And you know what? It's going to be really a pleasure to be back. I know this is our second time back in person, but maybe even have everything's well perfect.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We're excited for it. And as everyone knows, Kenilworth Assembly Hall, will be our location. It is.
Wishing you the best for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you.
And again, I appreciate the encouragement. This has been something that has really helped keep me going. Knowing that I'll be involved with the township now and in the future. So thank you, everyone.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We appreciate you too.
We'll now transfer the duties of the clerk to our deputy clerk, Hopkins.
Thank you, Emily, for your copy.
Thank you, Jerome.
Rest up.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay. Financial reports. I shall allow share screen.
While you're working on that, is there a Cliff Notes version for what was wrong with the one that we got so that I don't have to flip through everything?
Oh, I went through and requested a few things to be reallocated.
Got it.
Yep. For the end of the year to make sure that they made sense.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Hi, James.
How are you? So tonight we'll walk through the 12 months ended February 28th. So again, this is our end of year statement, but remember, we're still on the accrual method of accounting, so we will receive late bills, things that might have to come back into the fiscal year 2023. But as of right now, this is kind of a tentative report. And you can see in terms of revenue, we look very good. Again, 99% of our property taxes came in. In terms of collections, you can see replacement tax beat pretty handily at 285%. Remember, that's the business tax that comes in about 8 times a year from the state. Interest beat by about 37%. Passport fees beat 97%. And then we had some miscellaneous or other income, again, taking us to about 3.4 million in revenue. We budgeted 3.3, so we were 3% better on the top line number. So that looks very good to me. As we come down into expenditures, as mentioned, our agency programs were paid out at 100%. And then as we kind of scroll down into some of the bigger categories, projects at 85% of the budget. The assessor was at 80%, building town hall expenses at 70, 90% financial assistance, a little bit over on pantry. We know we're going to revise that in next year's budget just based on need. We're up 14%, personnel at 98%, elected officials at 100. So again, 3.4 million on the expenditure side. Again, we budgeted 3.7, so we're at 90%. Again, we will have late bills that will be coding back to this fiscal year, but plenty of room there to absorb those. And then you can see an overall surplus, pretty much 21,000 in surplus that we manage with a bigger increase to the town fund and then a planned reduction in GA. And remember, that's kind of be a continued methodology as we try to bring that fund balance down, as we want to avoid tax objection in doing so. But again, 142,000 to the good. We started with 426 in the town fund, so we're at 469,000 in fund balance. 121 we took from the $1 million we started with for GA, so 880,000, bringing total fund balance to about 1.4 million. Again, 43% fund balance to expenditure ratio for the township in total. That's better than best practice of 40%. So again, that looks very good in terms of reserves for the future. So we look at the distribution, passport fees, 1%, interest didn't quite make it there, under 1%, replacement taxes about 4%, and then property taxes really drive us at 94% of the pie. In terms of the distribution on the expenditure side, agency programs, 48%, childcare, 4, projects, 13, contractual, 4, assessor, 3, building town hall expenses, 3, financial assistance, 7, pantry, 4, personnel, 13, elected officials, 1. So again, you can see we beat on the top line and we trended better than budget on expenditures. That what put us in that small surplus for the year. Now, again, some of that we will be using obviously as we get late bills in, but for the most part, a nicely balanced small surplus outcome for the township in total. You can see all of our agency programs here in at 100%. And then as we scroll down, you know, some line items are going to go a little over. And some, you know, a little under. But again, we're looking at in total by fund. That's what draws the red flags in the audit. And both of those were approximately 90% of the budget. So that all looked very good in total. About 1.6 million, again, across all funds. As you know, we have to, as you see in the news, you know, bank runs out west. You know, we want to make sure the board's aware that we do have, you know, third-party collateral, anything above that FDIC insurance figure, to know we're well protected in terms of our investments at the bank. So again, John's here tonight, I see, to talk about our investments, which will also be very well protected. But it is a good time to look to try to expand some of that return as really safe fixed income portfolios are having, 4 to 5% returns on some of those investments, which is great. Other than that, I've got all the usual transaction detail for February here. Again, a lot of this agency related. As you can see, all of those went out on time, and then some community support grants as well. You can see all of those totals as we kind of go through the transaction detail. And so after that, obviously the reconciliations, as we do every month with the redactions, as you can see in black there. But that really concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions from the board.
I have a question. Last month,
Yes, sir.
I asked you about the other income, which is substantial, and you're showing it again this month. And I also noted that it's not in the pie chart. So I would like an explanation as to what that other income is and why it's not included in the pie chart, because it's a larger income than some of the other categories which are included.
Yeah, typically, we don't budget a lot for other income. It's kind of a catch-all. I'd have to go back to those deposits and pull that out. I apologize. I don't have that for you tonight, but we can find that out for you. And as you can see, we didn't expect that much to start the year, but we did take in more than expected. So we'll go through those deposit tickets and pull out the detail for you.
Please do. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Additional questions? Seeing none. Prior to inviting our guests to speak, I would like to do the verification of claims, since we've got our financial statements in front of us. Trustee Moser.
Okay, one second.
And as you probably saw, a lot of blackout from, those are all the community support grants. That was a fun day because that was the day of the gas leak. So I was signing those outside on the it was,
In the rain.
It was really quite cold out. Anyway.
I would like to make a motion to approve the town fund expenditures in the period of February 2023. Doesn't have a back end date on it, but as indicated in the financial report that you just approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
This is a financial question, so we will call the roll.
Supervisor Eisenberg,
Yes.
trustee Casal McNally,
Yes.
trustee Robbins.
Yes.
Trustee Moser.
Yes.
Trustee Rubin. Yes.
All right, that does pass. I'm changing the Jerome's name to yours. All right, if you wouldn't mind,
Ready for me?
please introduce
If I
yourself.
pull up to the, there, that I can set my foot down with my glasses all at the same time. James, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you good. Yep.
Perfect, thank you.
Whenever you're ready.
Great, very good, thank you. First of all, John Feldudo from Sawyer Feldudo Asset Management. You met my colleague Ed Lavin a couple of months ago, and we kind of got this ball rolling. So first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be with you. I will keep my comments relatively brief tonight. Just a quick thank you to Gail and Marisha and to James for our various meetings and phone calls and emails and things. Very responsive. I wish all of our folks that we worked with were as good as you guys are. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. And I know that if James is involved here in Denver also, so that's great. What I brought with me today, you see a little bound report. We're pretty much ready to get started from an investment perspective. And as mentioned earlier, you've got low interest rates, have some bank deposits and things like that. The interest rate environment is favorable to get some things invested, obviously. But we also want to preface that by saying our objective is this is an alternative to cash. This is not, trying to beat the stock market and earn, double-digit returns, those types of things. We realize that there are dollars that need to be principal safe, yet earn as much interest as possible in a very safe and secure environment. So I'll walk you through kind of what it will look like, just to give you a sense of it, and then we'll be ready to get going pretty quick. So if you turn to the, I just threw these together today. We had to adjust things. Interest rates have been bouncing around if you've been paying attention at all, obviously with bank stuff going on. So we put this together tonight. I had the guys, and I don't have page numbers because staff was already gone before they could show me the PDF page number information, but representative investment yields is the first page that we'll look at, which should be the second page in the report. And essentially what we always look at is over a liquid to 5-year maturity spectrum, kind of get a sense of the types of investments you're allowed to invest in that we would typically use, and what the current interest rates are, or yields, if you will. And you can see we're kind of focused on that money market column. So we do have, following our discussions, the earmark for some very liquid funds, so to have them available to use, but also invested in the investment money market fund, so you get the benefit of a higher yield than if it was just in the bank. And then we also have some securities that go out another 6 months or a year, and typically we'd be looking at treasury notes, CDs, agency notes, those very safe, secure, federally backed or indirectly federally backed types of investments. And that's what we built our portfolio using. We have a corporate as a column there for investments under the Public Funds Investment Act. You do have the ability to utilize some corporate type securities, but I will tell you that you'd be the first if you said, let's get some of those in light of the risk that you have, right, with a company potentially going under or going belly up, especially with what we've seen with the Silicon Valley Bank recently. I think we'll be shying away from those for a little while. We turn one page, and you should see at the header there, it should say New Trier Township Angel Fund. And essentially, again, in our conversations, we had identified that the initial investment would be around $300,000, and that we would have a 0 to 12 month type approach of laddered securities, if you will. And you'll note in the top portion there, you see the government money market fund at $100,000. So of the $300,000, about $100,000 would be liquid. The money market yield, as we sit here today, is 4.12%. That's been increasing slightly every day, basically, for quite a while as interest rates have gone up. We'll see how that goes on a going forward basis. But you can see the 100,000 at 4.12%. And then we just simply laddered the positions out in $50,000 increments over the next 3, 6, 9, and 12 month periods. But you'll note if you look at the yield to maturity column, that actually the 3-month treasury is paying a higher rate of interest, 4.92%, than a 6-month, 9-month, and 12-month, which is a little bit out of the ordinary, right? Typically you expect a higher yield with a longer maturity. So we call that an inverted yield curve, of course. So you may see us, as we put these dollars to work, staying a little bit shorter than the ladder, because again, that puts more money in the bottom line. That said, I think we will ladder out because interest rates could go down. So we want to lock in some for a little bit longer to lock in a little bit higher interest rate for a longer period of time. So again, it will look something like this, may not be exact, but very close to it. That'll generate at the bottom right-hand corner there, the Sawyer Belludo 0.2% annual fee, $13,000 roughly in terms of income. We flip one page, we've got the town fund next, and the bottom line there is about $500,000 of investment. We had earmarked about $250,000, again, to be liquid, if you will, in the money market fund, and then laddered out the remaining $250,000, again, netting out to the bottom line there of 4.24% after expense, $21,000 of income on an annual basis.
And for those who are looking at, when we look at the temp on the GA, these are the reserve funds. So we'd be operating in the reserve. And essentially, it's money we weren't touching anyway.
I think one of the things to point out here too is that this is a conversation we'll have on a regular basis in terms of the interest rate world changes, and we see a normal yield curve and things like that. If there's dollars that you don't expect to use that are truly your long-term or longer-term reserves, we may change the investment strategy, obviously, and that's why we get together regularly.
Unless we're successful legislatively in Springfield, in which case there may be a little bit of an opportunity for us to readjust.
Right.
I thought that we agreed we would not put all of our funds.
This isn't all, yeah. It's about half.
I'm sorry?
It ends up being about half.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we're clear on that, because I didn't think the angel fund was going.
The angel fund is more than half, yes. We are such low rates.
Going there with any of it. So that's either my misunderstanding or something changed. I thought we were just going to try half of basically our funds and not include angel fund. And well, maybe I'm wrong, but that's.
I don't have that recollection. We can certainly take a look back. my thoughts, first of all, obviously angel fund is a whole other, you know,
Yeah.
government structure.
Remember, Angel Fund is the one that Elliot and I have been screaming about for 6 months because it's got absolutely no return.
And they don't,
That's
and they don't receive ton of money.
And they haven't, that's the whole reason that, like, you know, we've been, you know, that.
John, don't look at that, you're gonna be sick.
He knows, he's
I see that, I start to cheer, because I.
That's not my point. Point is, we made an agreement, and now we're changing that agreement, and so that's what I'm trying to understand.
I didn't have that same recollection that we weren't touching Angel Fund. I thought that we were doing this because Angel Fund was getting mistake.
Bevin, this is zero risk, we have a zero risk tolerance. And
Not the point, Elliot, that's not my point. Accept what you're saying.
I'm afraid that we'll be malfeasant if we don't put enough money in these.
I understand what you're saying, and I will take a look back to see if we did have that as a recollection. We generally only meet as an angel fund once a year, and maybe that's a separate issue that maybe we should, but I don't think we would have, you know, officially addressed angel fund.
We didn't vote on numbers or anything like that.
I think we addressed what the, what's it called, depository institutions were. That was what the vote was for. But we'll take a back look.
All that's true. My point is, we had made an agreement about how much we were gonna put into the investment portfolio at this point. And now that agreement's been changed unilaterally, and I merely point that out for the record.
For the record. Okay,
Very good.
continue.
Thank you. So that's the town fund in summary, and then if you flip one more page, it'll be the last page in your report, the GA fund. And if you look again at the bottom line there, it's $500,000. And we did talk about keeping about $250,000 liquid again in the money market fund, so daily availability. And then again, a laddered approach, getting down to the bottom line again at 4.24%. So very similar across the board. One of the things that we talked about was, does the township want one bucket that is then accounted for separately, or is it better or easier to keep the bucket separate? And there's no extra cost or no extra pain in the neck factor, if you will. We're having 3 separate Schwab accounts to hold those dollars, so we set it up that way. And it works out really well, makes life easier for James as well as staff and board hopefully as well. And from my perspective, that gives us the ability then at times to identify cash flow that needs to come into or out of each of those buckets. And we did set up what's called MoneyLink, which is the electronic mechanism to move money safely between a like name, like tax ID number account to each of these buckets. So you have the ability to request funds from us on a regular basis if you need to, or make deposits, which we can help with facilitating. I mentioned a minute ago, and I'm sure Ed talked about this, but the dollars will be held in a Schwab account. It's not Schwab Bank. It's not any risk from an FDIC perspective. You own the actual securities. They're titled in the name of the township. So Schwab company could go belly up tomorrow. Those assets are held separately in the custody side of Schwab, not the bank side of Schwab. And that's why, again, the multi-million-dollar buckets that we have for various organizations, pension funds, and individuals are safe and secure in that type of thing. Schwab custody comes along with the ability for the authorized signers on those accounts to have online access where they can log in, see the accounts, look at transactions. We forward statements to James first or second business day of the month following month end, so that he has everything right away to do his accounting work for you. So that should never be a holdup. And if you ever need anything, I never say call Schwab. You can ask them. It's their problem or it's their issue. You reach out to us. We're the ones who are facilitating the relationship, and that's what we do every day. So as much as I've owned the place for 15 years, my job day in and day out is sit in the inbox and take care of day-to-day operations and make sure everybody has what they need so that you keep us coming back and you enjoy working with us. So I invite you to call me or drop an email if you ever need anything. I do take a day off every once in a while, going on Friday up to or down to Indianapolis for a volleyball tournament with my daughter, but staff is there and I'm always monitoring. So if you need anything, I think ladies know you can always call me as well.
While we have you up here, if you wouldn't mind, you've made a couple of suggestions for our investment policy. You wouldn't mind going through about the suggestions.
And I brought the email with me. I had seen that was in the packet. So online, so I did print a copy, so I have exactly what you guys were looking at. And we had a couple of very brief or very minor changes in our opinion. If you turn to, so if you have the same, would everyone have the same document as I do? So on the Ed Lavin email, which is on the lower half, if you will, and then follow on to the next page. Essentially, what I asked Ed to do is look at the current investment policy and make a change if he felt something needed to be changed. So he titled current investment policy language, delete this paragraph. And when I say delete the paragraph, he's really just adjusting one or two words or a few words, but it's easier for me if you take out one paragraph and put in a new paragraph. So if you turn to the second page of that email, insert this language, and it's simply highlighted, says deposits into investment brokerage accounts are excluded from this provision. And above that, it requested each calendar quarter, the call request date, call reports from the depositories, if you will. First of all, it's a little bit outdated in that call reports aren't floating around as much as they used to be in the old days. And more importantly, this is not a bank account. It's a Schwab account, again, where you have daily information available to you in a different situation. So we just added that language if that works for you. And then we had in section 5, investment portfolio, current investment policy language. There's a reference there to book value, and Ed's comment was that we really should be reflecting cost basis. And the reason we want to look at cost basis is because the value of that security when it was purchased becomes your cost basis. And you then have the ability to look and see how you've done, relatively speaking. So we usually do recommend changing book to cost. James, I think you were good with that, those changes as well, if I remember correctly when we talked about it. And that's about it. Correct. Pretty straightforward. Otherwise, the policy was in good shape and we didn't have any concerns. But I'd certainly be glad to answer any questions that I can or get back to you if there's something I don't have the answer to tonight.
And then if everyone recalls, the investment policy, which was provided to you guys in your packet a few months ago, is on our website now in the policy section, but that was from 2006. So I'm glad it has aged well.
Yeah.
Sure. Any questions on those changes? Okay, that's good to know. I'm glad that we at least had it looked at too. Okay, we'll vote on that when we get to continuing business. But if that is all, I will allow say that if you're free to stay and learn more about the assessor's office, but otherwise, feel free to grab some Halloween candy.
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay for a little while.
Yep.
Sorry, believe it or not, I do enjoy it. I probably. Thank you.
I'm glad that means you're in a good spot.
Before we move on to financials, I just had a quick question.
Yes, please.
I was looking at our current investment. Do we have $800,000 in GA?
GA currently is at.
That just seems out of whack.
It is out of whack.
We're gonna be getting our Cook County deposits relatively soon.
Yeah.
But there is.
Yeah. That's why we're trying to get that bill passed.
How long has it been since the last bill was passed for the?
Over a decade. Yeah.
But there seems to be some evidence.
Yeah, and this would be more of a permanent fix than what they did last time, which was a one-time allow us to people to transfer. This would say, if essentially, you meet the certain criteria, we can use the GA fund for any of our other financial assistance programs. So like childcare, transportation. So it'd still be for financial need, but not as hamstringed. So, well, not even fingers crossed, call your state senators down your rep, but our state senators reps are fine. So, thankfully. But yes, and that's a lot better than we were before. Trustee Moser. we put more of our pantry costs on GA.
But I still think it's higher than it's ever been.
No, not as it's ever been.
It isn't?
No. Yeah, we're making progress, slowly but surely. Yep. And we continue to do a 0% levy, so we're very lucky Township in that regard. All right, we are now in line for the assessor's report. Jan, thank you for your patience.
There's no written report this month with wearing my assessor hat. Because at the moment we are simply quietly talking to residents who all want to know why is my tax bill so high and where are all my exemptions? So for the public record, the first tax bill, which comes out in early every year, is 55% of the previous year's bill. It is working capital, that is all. There are no adjustments on it. They all appear on the second tax bill. So nobody in the public domain should ever worry about how high that bill is, it's immutable in that respect, or where their exemptions are, because they can worry about that later. Len likened it to hiring a contractor who says he wants a deposit, basically. And he, you know, maybe the deposit will cover all the work, maybe you'll be paying more later. But that deposit is there or he won't start the work, period. Your first tax bill is much like that. You just pay it, the end. That's my assessor's report. So now if you want to segue into the budget, that's fine.
Go for it.
Are you also getting a lot of calls from people saying, I just paid my tax bill and now I have to do another one?
Actually, no, not so much. We seem
Really?
to have done a pretty good job of getting out there the fact that everybody did, not just us. I don't mean that. I mean the county in general, that these two bills were coming hard on the heels of each other. Yeah, kind of amazing.
Cause I was just at something this evening and a couple of people walked up to me and said, how come you pay so many tax bills so quickly?
Right, good. Because I like to know at least the people are paying attention. Yeah.
So we have your assessor's office budget. This is the version that you emailed to us.
That's what I emailed.
It hasn't changed.
And that is the one.
Did I
Email
accurately put it
you
into
have.
this?
Sorry.
Oh, do you have this in front of you?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know where it is, but I have it somewhere here, yeah.
If you could just
I looked at-
confirm that I
even looked at
accurately put it in.
I even looked at it, yeah, it's all there, and it's, you know, the James's lineup is slightly different, but that doesn't matter, the figures are all the same. And, I thought that I had, I thought I had sent Jim Kelly's memo out to everybody last night, and I simply apologize that I did not see it until today. It went into drafts instead of going out that last night, so everybody did get his opinion letter today. I don't know whether everybody had a chance to look at it. But he and I talked today, and he said basically, he said literally nobody that he talked to amongst any of the townships that he has worked with, and he called several other townships, he said they didn't even know there was a time restriction on the assessor's budget. Nobody pays any attention to it at all. They went, oh, really? I didn't know that. Never done it. Never will. So, and he said basically then it's at the trustee's discretion. It may be in the statute that the budget should be submitted 2 months ahead of time, but the main thing is that it'd be done with 30 days notice before the hearing, and that's all that needs to be done according to not the statute, it doesn't say that, but just according to the law of the way the process works. So that's it. And as I said, when I sent out the original budget, the original figures that I had last year for Led's salary were incorrect. They were low, considerably lower than what he was making then. So the 10% increase I am requesting now is on the accurate figure, which came from his W-2 and not from a previous office employee.
Okay. And James, are the IMRF Medicare health insurance Medicare numbers, do those look accurate to you?
Those are all from Len having asked and my doing any calculations, taking the IMRF percentage that we pay, and doing the math, and also looking at his pay stub. So I had the right percentages and figures to work with.
Okay. Any questions on the assessor's budget?
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out as between the profit loss and the assessor's budget where some of the items are listed.
So we're on page 3 of 5.
Me too.
Okay.
So I'm looking for the Sidwell, Noventech,
All under contract.
Okay, so those 3 are combined to make that one?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm looking at? Okay.
Yeah. Well, this is obviously a more detailed version.
Yeah, right. I sent specifics, figuring that
Got it.
GA would combine them as they saw fit.
Got it. So thank you.
Okay. Marisha, do you have any comments?
Yes, so I know that we spoke over email the other day about your HTML fees. And I know that you told me that the building, it was part of the building expenses.
Right, well, that's how we figured it, yeah.
Bill Hunt said that you guys are about $8,700 of that budget.
Right, you said about 25% of the total.
Oh, the total, yeah.
Yeah.
He gave us 35,000 as the budget in case, it gave us a little bit of wiggle room in case we need to do anything this year. As long as that's fine with, minus whatever that 8,900 is, whatever the other part of the 16,000 is, I don't know what goes into that.
We're supposed to be, essentially rent,
Rent,
would be effectively.
Electricity and.
Yeah. For 2 offices, essentially.
What was that number previously?
It was slightly higher.
It was
but not much.
16,800 and something or other, and I simply rounded it down based on some online looks at what I could actually get rental space for in the area if I were to rent out separately.
Okay.
So that is listed in 56105. You'll see last year it was 16,866.
Right.
So it would be a decrease of 866.
And some odd dollars,
You feel it's
Has HTML always been part of that number?
so remember,
No, because we didn't have HTML.
Right,
Yeah.
but whatever
But then I
the,
didn't have a budget either.
right, but
Yeah.
whatever the, service provider was, or
No,
I
because
don't know how
we
they
didn't
did.
have,
the address.
I had a very small budget that accounted for almost nothing in reality. I mean, there was a legal expense which I never used. There
contracts and
was,
expenses, professional expenses.
right.
That was about it. Yeah.
and there were,
It was
I
two
like,
line
the dues were there, the, not contracts, but the Sidwell and bits like that, and, I think there was something probably for travel, meetings, education, that kind of thing. And that was really about it, and it was a total of $10,000 a year, and didn't include, and I used, I asked Diane once for an accounting of it, and generally came in at something like, when she sent it to me over several years, it was like I hadn't even used 1,000 or 2,000 of it. And it wasn't really what I was looking for, but okay, because I was trying to get figures on what portion of office stuff we were using, and there was nothing in there about it at all. And so I just kind of started from scratch. So there's no correlation from, say, last year was the first complete budget I had ever submitted, and any previous ones just bear no relationship to it at all, except for some line items. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, not the amounts of them, but the fact of them.
I'm just a stickler for these things.
the same thing.
Yeah.
I think it looks fine the way that it is, if we can break out, the building expenses, just so that it doesn't look like utilities, like what we would be paying.
So we had talked about trying to maybe renaming it shared expenses or shared services.
So that we can allocate it to the correct thing.
Call, we can name it anything you want.
Yeah.
And that was just what we had done when we first put the proposal together.
Okay, so that's just more on our own side.
Yeah.
Okay, any additional questions for Jan? Seeing none. Where did my agenda go? Public comments? Seeing none. Township budget. Oh, no, you're turning off. Okay. All right. Now we bring the second screen in. So you have, no, I pressed something. There it goes. There. Okay. You have a beautiful sheet here with the yellow columns. Thank you to James for helping me make this look a lot better. But essentially, you've got in the first column last year's actual for the full fiscal year, then what we budgeted last year, and then you can see where we were as far as actual to budget. My proposals are in the yellow with a total, and that second to last column for the few areas that are both in GA and in town funds. And then the percentage of last year's budget, as you can see where there were changes from last year's budget. So I want to walk through just a couple of them. Okay. So the most part, I tried to make things as close to actual as possible. Having gone through now 2 audits, the auditors get concerned when we just put money in there and then we don't spend them. They ask what that was for. So tried to make them a little bit more truth in budgeting, so that also the people can see that we're being good fiscal stewards as we are. I was pretty conservative on interest earned and other income, though I of course anticipate that our interest will outpace my conservative figure. Similarly, I did not want to bank on us having as great of a year on passport fees, because Steve is taking on the full-time agency role. I'm still hopeful, you know, the whole idea is that when he's not doing agency, he's doing passports in the summer, especially, it's really the time for him to be focused on that. But let's find out how it goes. So I
and a lot of the post-COVID surge, the demand might have been met. Yes.
Good point.
Yes.
True. We might have met some of that need. Yeah. But we are trying to do a push for people who need their passports to do so before the expedited period. So we have been doing a little bit of communication saying, oh, you spring break, think about summer. Oh, summer, let's think about winter.
There was just news thing on the news last night about how the passports are very slow in coming, and it's messing people up all over.
It is.
For anybody who didn't happen to catch it.
I
don't know whether it was on all the channels at all, so.
Well, now everybody is using the Rush My Passport, which is like our night.
Well, everyone does it, right?
Yeah,
right.
I had a guy who walked in yesterday for it, and his daughter's traveling in a week, so.
Sending downtown?
No, I did his application, but the thing is, we cannot guarantee that people are going to get their passport. So that's the tangle, like when people come here, we always tell them, and I tell Steve too, do not guarantee anybody that when they use these services that they are going to get their passport.
Right. Yep, we always have to point out that we are not, you know.
One more question. Steve is fully independent. He's good to go from Marisha. He's
certainly more complicated cases.
For more complicated cases, he does ask me, just to make sure, because I am anal about this passport program staying 100%. But yeah, he's good with like the everyday things, but there are many complicated passport things, especially when it comes to families. So he always does ask me.
All right, so turning then to the agency programs, you will note that everything is exactly how we approved it, except for if you go to Career Resource Center. Unfortunately, Career Resource Center has closed. We received notice this last week after decades of service and really making a huge push in New Township over the last 2 years. They have closed their doors. Anyone who has current services will continue to receive services. They're not taking additional clients. So if people are in the boot camp, which we were subsidizing, they're finishing the boot camp. If they already had a mentor, they're finishing their mentorship. But that is sadly the end. Julie did a great job collecting additional career related resources for our website. As we have other agencies that help, especially developmental disabilities and with people with mental health concerns finding jobs. But that is now a bit of a hole in our services. I did notice today that Cook County now has a new program, so we will push out their program as well. So that is now a 0, and that would have been 18,000. Any questions on that? All right, so that's the agency. The child care services, I'm proposing an increase to 60,000 for before and after daycare. We used our entirety of our before after school scholarship fund last year. which tells me that there is still need. So I'm requesting that $10,000 request, increase. And that is something that we have increased as a board over the last few years. And I'm glad to see that we are meeting that need.
And Gail, were there requests that we could not fill because we were, okay.
No. And we actually do tend to keep back a couple $1,000s for extenuating circumstances. And we did use those funds when I received a particular case that merited it. I am proposing a decrease in our dial-a-ride, sorry, we're on transportation services. It's not being used. So we were at 35,000. I'm recommending to go to 10,000, which would be double what usage was this year. I still hope that people will use it. The hope and intent is to increase what we offer for dial-a-ride, but we currently have all of our coupon books at the current rate. We were planning to use those up because the companies don't want us to double up. Does that make sense? They won't accept two.
Yeah. We have about 1,000 people in the dial-a-ride program, and I would say maybe 8% of those people use the dial-a-ride program.
And my thought is that it's Uber and Lyft, that people aren't using taxis. And that's just, you know,
But people run
program
here to sign up for it, which is very odd, and then they never use them. We do still have some people who still have coupons from like 2013, and they'll call and say, can I still use them? And those people generally use it to go to the airport, but the people who use it to get to doctor's appointments in the grocery store and stuff, those are the same people for American and Real 3. But we're not in a position to change just yet because of the hundreds of coupons that we have left.
So that is on the agenda when we get there.
Or change it.
Mobility Plus, that's really the new
$69 transportation.
the transportation for those who have mobility restrictions. We have a lot of interest in it, but not a lot of usage. Because it is still expensive. I'm hopeful that we will see people actually use it this year because there is very much a need for handicap accessible transport. And this is an alternative to using Pace's mobility system, which is a lot less. This offers more flexibility. So as an alternative, we did request or we did apply for a grant for that program to allow us to offer a larger subsidy. So hopefully we will get that. But it was meant for transportation improvements. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm maybe getting a little too in the weeds here, but I had a question as between the profit and loss for transportation services and then the interim financial statements. That it looks like the dial-a-ride is actually different from the first column. The last year's actual is showing higher on the profit loss than it is on the interim financial statements. And I'm just trying to figure out what the difference is. I'm looking at page 6 of 9 for the interim financial statements and obviously 2 of 5 for the profit loss. So it's, you know, the third major column or third major row down.
So it says 4.2 here.
426 versus 4.518. And if these are final numbers, I don't know why they would be, why would they be off?
James, do you want to address?
Yeah, they could be having something to do with some of the revisions that we had. But we can look into it further for you.
Thank you, and I appreciate it.
You're going through a draft internal document, so we'll make sure that when we're final, we have all the end of year figures. Again, we're gonna still get bills in this month, maybe into next month that we'll have to pull back for services rendered. So it's more of a gauge and an internal document for you to try to look at your expenses, but we'll look into that one to see why it's different.
Okay. Other projects, keeping peer jury where it is. We did not use the full amount this year because we did not have a scholarship. The back to school supplies, same. The major difference, I'm requesting a $10,000 increase to the community support grants. As you can see, our numbers are up. And I'd like to continue offering the same level of support as much as possible. We never know exactly how much the grant will be based on how many qualified applicants, but I think another $10,000 would be well used. All right.
What would the new program funds go to?
That is essentially our flexibility fund. So we've used it in the past for that additional Meals on Wheels allocation during COVID. We used it for the additional grocery store cards to children on free and reduced lunch during COVID. Last year, we used it for the post July 4th trauma center. So it's really just meant, and more traditionally, it has been used, for a new nonprofit that comes in. So for instance, Text a Tip was a new program at one point. Our house was from that pot at one point.
Right. So like off-cycle seed, off-cycle stuff.
Yep. That's our flexibility ability. It's not a huge number, but it is important, I think, to have something there. Our annual town meeting, I'm suggesting a decrease from 3,000 to 1,000. We had a FOIA request recently asking what our charges were for all of the previous annual town meetings for the last 10 years. Okay, so I think we're fine at that.
When did the request come in?
Yeah.
So that is something in anticipation of what's coming up next month.
Yeah. And remember, we now post all of our FOIA responses online. So just fun. And so everyone can see. Transparency is the name of the game.
Yeah, I have a question. Is sponsored meetings all of our stuff that we have in office?
Yeah.
So that's a combination of all of our meetings.
That's non-committee meetings. So committee meetings are 5085. Sponsored meetings would be like when you have the administrators.
Okay.
Does this mean no Lawrence-Stein cookies for next month?
We have to use
we have to use their caterer.
The caterer from Kenilworth. But it's
not that cheap.
It's not that cheap, but it's not crazy.
It's not.
They're still a nonprofit governmental entity. And then I will be donating macaroons for the Passover, and they did allow us a religious exemption from their exclusive contract.
There you go.
So such is what we gotta do. But I anticipate hearing about it.
Yeah.
We had a guy stand up with the cookie and said, "How much did these cost?"
Oh my gosh.
Last year.
Wow.
They were delicious.
Yeah.
And they were local. So
We splurged. We spent $100 on some.
Good cookies.
a good cookie.
Yeah.
Printing and publishing, I'm suggesting a decrease of $10,000. Well done to Julie, who's really done an amazing job being a good steward of our funds. It's about paper. It's about, she's always talking about how thick things are and which printer it goes to, and like she knows what she's doing, and it has led to some great saving.
Well, she's making great use of the social media and the digital resources to get word out about stuff too.
Exactly. I have fixed the website maintenance with a decrease from the 15,000 last year because we do have a contract. So I figure we might as well do what our contract is. So 13,625. And that is a more accurate number. The legal fees I decreased as well to be more close to our actual usage. Auditing I increased to be more close to our actual usage. Who's our auditors again? I can't remember.
Edgar and Casella.
Yes.
And I'm hopeful that we won't be as high as last year. We did have to do some extra.
We had to get an extended time last year
because we couldn't find everything. But now we know everything is. And our major policy put everything online. So Consultant fee, IT support also, just to be, more accurate. So, it's 35,000 for the total, and I allocated, then 25% of that gets allocated to the assessor's budget. And that was what we already discussed. Contract hire, we had it at 30,000, which was high considering we spent about 2,500. That's essentially our intern and also the temporary coverage for Jean during medical leave. And I'm recommending a substantial decrease to 5,000. Virtual webmaster I'm deleting, as well as office technology audit, because virtual webmaster is now included as a part of our website maintenance line item now. There's one contract, and the HTML, the office audit is included in the HTML consulting fee IT support line item. So those can be deleted. The digitization we did not use last year, which made the auditors sad. But we put that project on hold during Nicole's illness, and then sadly, obviously, during Jerome's illness. It's still on the agenda. Marisha, I believe, did you put a little bit of a blurb in your report about your meeting with the Secretary of State? Yeah. So we're in progress. We're getting, we're going to be getting rid of the reams and reams of paper. But that's step one, is finding out what can be simply thrown out before we go ahead and digitize. So I did leave that line item. That's based on an estimate that we had gotten a long time ago. I anticipate it being much less because we've already gotten rid of like half those boxes. So very exciting. And really the clean out from the asbestos was forced it. So yay, looks great back there. All right, assessor's office we've already discussed, so those are all numbers from the proposal. So we'll go down to insurance. We did not spend the full 30. I'm recommending going down to 25,000 to be closer to our actual, which was 20 last year, just giving us a little bit of wiggle room. We essentially get all of our coverage from Torma, which is specific to townships. We had some additional redundant policies that we did not renew. So that we didn't know we had until they asked for us to renew them. And I said, do you have the policies? Do you have the contract? And that was a fun game in itself. So telephone, I'm asking for a substantial decrease. This one's huge, from 25,000 down to 4,000. Our use of voice over internet program has substantially decreased our cost there. So hooray.
I think that's also when we have the old telephone company. It's been like traditionally just at that amount because we were paying separately for that.
Exactly. All right, personnel, the staff numbers are as approved at the previous meeting. And then the IMRF contributions and Social Security are calculated by those percentages. The Social Security line item is actually Social Security plus Medicare. So we probably should make that a little clearer, but just so you know what that is. And the IMRF contribution is at 7.9%. And are you all proud of my Excel abilities? I was able to multiply those things. Thank you. Thank you. I think that's it. Those are my major changes. Any questions?
If we were going to, and I'm kind of bringing this up in new business, talk about an increase in the supervisor's compensation, that has nothing to do with our present 24 budget.
Right, exactly.
I'm impressed with some of the savings here. I mean, some of these numbers that we used in the past were just kind of pulled out of thin air, and I see some very nice savings there now.
Thank you. And it's been an endeavor. Larisha and I have really gone through every contract, making sure we're getting the right, that we're spending where we need to spend and not what we don't. So, and as you had called it back when we ran, you know, a scale hole rather than a hatchet.
On the building upkeep, we've kept it at 90,000. Are you anticipating anything?
That's a good point. That is so we can address the solar issue that was also put on hold while we had engaged with the sustainability coordinator.
Yeah.
As you see in Larisha's report, she has met now with Lucy, and that process is starting. So hopefully the RFP will go out in the near future.
I'll meet with her again on Friday. Our roof surveyor did say that we may have an issue with how heavy solar panels are. So we'll get in, you know, a better view. You know, he suggested that a structural engineer come in because the building is so old and it doesn't have a great roof for certain projects. So she will be coming back in. She'll come in physically on Friday and I'll speak to her in the morning just to catch her up on what he said.
Any additional discussion on the proposed line item budget?
We're approving it this evening?
So how we'll do this is I'm entertaining any conversation here. We're approving it for purposes of it being placed into the ordinance, the draft ordinance, budget ordinance. That will then get noticed per law, and we have our budget meeting, which just needs to be approved within the first quarter. And we're gonna meet that deadline this year. So great.
You need a motion to put it as part of the draft ordinance?
Yes, I think so. I mean, just
So-
to approve as provided. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seeing no additional discussion, I'll call the question. Because it's financial, we might as well do a roll call.
Supervisor Eisenberg,
Yes.
trustee Giselle McNally. Yes. Trustee Robbins.
Yes.
Trustee Moser.
Yes.
Trustee Rubin.
Yes. The motion carries. Well, that was fun. Next, committee liaison reports. We will start with mental health funding and oversight.
So we met on Monday the 6th, discussed a number of changes to the applications, the systems and procedures. Just anecdote, you know, Steve ran a really great first meeting and I was very impressed. So I feel very strongly that he is hitting the ground running and that he had a really good transition period, at least for our committee.
Thank you. Community service, life stages.
Yeah, so at the last meeting, we just did an overview of what the trustees approved in terms of funding. There was some discussion about the warming house and what are the next steps and what would be happening next. And, you know, I said that I would report after you and Brian, I believe it was Brian, or you know, had met with the warming house. So that's it.
Thank you. All right, disability support.
We basically also discussed the warming house and the implications of what we've done. And then we spent the better part of the meeting revising the letters that Brian had created.
Yeah.
And got those all squared away. And my only comment was that a very low turnout again.
Yes.
So I don't know what that's about necessarily, but that's the reality.
I think after the agency allocation period, there's wrap up. I don't know if anyone else has found the same.
We had 2 people there.
Yes, that is not a lot. Yep. It may be were you guys on Zoom or in person?
I don't think there were. There may have been one person on Zoom, but
Okay.
and to Brian's credit, he said one person may have called, said it would be there, but we were way down on numbers.
Got it. Okay. And before we go into peer jury, just to note for all of the committees that the letters are going to be physically handed out tomorrow at our new agency networking event. And everyone is welcome to attend. What is it, 3 to 5?
3:30 to 5.
3:30 to 5.
Is somebody showing up for you or for warming house?
We'll find out.
Steve said there were about 22 attendees as of this evening when we left at 5. So we'll see.
Yeah.
And it's letters and check.
Letters and checks. Yeah. So yeah, first checks are going out. Yep. Elliot? Peer jury?
We had meetings with both Loyola and New Trier East. Those are the two most important in terms of size, the two largest schools, and they're both very interested in the peer jury program. Now, there's something going on in the legislature right now. There's a new bill in the House, and what the proposal is to end police ticketing in schools. We don't know where it's gonna end up, but that could be really directly good for the peer jury program. Right now, it started in 2015, schools could refer in-school offenses to the local police department. And we're talking about things like use, vaping, possession, fighting and things like that. And they would refer to the police officer in the school who would in turn deal with it within his police department. And the police would then issue through, whether it was Wilmette or Winnetka, they'd issue fines. And the suburbs would be the direct beneficiary of those fines. Now the bill is to amend the school code, making it illegal for school personnel to involve police to issue citations for incidents that can be addressed by the school's own disciplinary procedure. So if this legislation should pass, that's one additional incentive and impetus for the schools to deal with us directly. Now, I've said this before, and I'll say it again on the record. There is a direct relationship between the decline in cases coming into peer jury and the increase in monetization of these offenses by the municipalities. And really, we have a situation in affluent communities where we live, where a lot of parents are saying, you know, there's accountability that could be achieved in peer jury or restorative justice, and then there's also confidentiality and ease. And if I can pay $250, $500, $750 to the village of Winnetka or to the village of Wilmette, and this whole thing goes away, you know, and maybe my kid does a little community service, and by the way, they're coming to us back door and saying, Brian, we can handle the community service. I mean, it's just so obvious that there's a relationship. I want to be able to prove it, but there's a relationship between the increase in monetizing juvenile offenses and the decrease in cases we're getting. But I'm very excited about this new bill that's pending. And I think the schools recognize that if we're going to suddenly have to handle these cases, we would benefit by having a partnership with peer jury. So that's what we're working on.
Do you have a bill number on that offhand?
I do not. I know it's in the House right now, Gail. And it's, I think the keywords would be to end police ticketing in schools. But it is a bill, and it's a bill that I think we could really get behind because I think it would be nice to have the schools working with us directly.
Absolutely. Okay. We have received staff reports from our township administrator, community services administrator, general assistance administrator, outreach and communications director, and community partnerships coordinator. And we will update Brian's title. So he put it correctly on his form.
I have a question on it. In Brian's report, and it's a very small point, he said that the township service board was going to Tammy Smiley, but it's not on the agenda. So
it's for the retiring committee member. She's the only retiring committee member.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what that is. Yep. And she has been on a number of committees, so I think for that.
From Larisha's report, do we have any ongoing testing or concerns with respect to the asbestos abatement?
No, so when they left, they had somebody else come in and do the testing for the air, just make sure that the air was clean, so we're good with that.
Okay. For the CPR certification and recertification, I love this. Are we also doing AED training, automatic external defibrillator training? And if not this year, could I maybe push that we do that next year and maybe provide an AED? Because I would be really behind that, given especially the number of people that we have coming in that, you know, we don't know what their health status is. It's a relatively simple process, and a lot of times when somebody is doing CPR certification, they will do AED at the same time. And so, you know, my dad's a cardiac surgeon, so I just have to, you know, put in my plug. But you know,
the CPR training is 2 hours, so I can definitely ask them when we go to the fire department.
Awesome, thank you.
And we should. You're right. We have an AED, so let's put that on.
And I think you've got a really good one in the neighborhood of $3, $4, $5,000. It's something, it's in the mid thousands.
We'll certainly take a look, but I know that it kind of talks you through it, so.
Yeah.
It does.
It's
Literally talk.
Yeah,
Right.
literally talks you.
I've been
so-
trained in it, and
Yeah.
it's not a complicated thing at all. And the numbers are constantly changing in terms of CPR anyway, so it's a good that everybody get a refresh.
Exactly, so that we'll be having a full day in service, next
We
Wednesday.
might even be able to qualify for some kind of grant or some kind of assistance
Oh, yeah.
for Township purchasing the device.
We'll certainly check with the fire department.
But I
if they
think
went
that
in
it's so well said that given the people that we have coming in and out of here, food pantry folks and so on, this is a municipal building, it would be wonderful to have one here.
there. It's a great idea, I'm surprised we didn't think about it, but that's why we have a board.
From Brian's, maybe somebody else already knows the answer to this, but from Brian's report, under the pantry, it looked like either he had not completed editing that last sentence or that there's somebody missing, but negotiating better prices, the grant will be using them more often as neither Jewel will
Not deliver anymore.
Oh,
They
okay.
won't
So
deliver
it's
to
just,
us,
it's,
yeah.
yeah, it's not Jewel or anybody else, it's just.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
In Jean's report.
And on that, we actually are, in the beginning, of trying to negotiate, an intergovernmental agreement, hopefully with the Wilmette Library, who has a van. To use that van for big pickups. Right now, we rely on Northfield, which is fabulous. Northfield helps us out. Apparently it's chicken day coming up. Thing from Hunger Resource Network. So, in order to get, your pallet of chickens,
You have to have a big.
you have to have a van. So,
Well, considering, don't they, isn't that one of the groups that shares the, environmental resource?
exactly, yeah. So there is.
So if we can keep one more car off the road, then that would be a way to
It's
go
electric,
about it.
actually.
There you go. In Jean's report, I just wanted to point out, when she talked about the hoarding task force on February 28th, Izzy and I both attended that as well. Not that we have, any, concern about it whatsoever, but Jean ran that, and I did not know that she was like running it. She is incredibly well received, thought of, within that particular group. And so it's an incredible thing to see her literally and figuratively on her feet in a month.
So glad to see that.
Yeah, she's awesome.
And I will say that we've had a number of hoarding incidences for emergency assistance, and her ability to work across stakeholders, to address the immediate needs as well as the long-term cleanup needs has been very helpful, because these homes are not safe. So sadly attendant to, various mental health disorders or alcoholism, hoarding can become the more immediate concern. Yeah. Okay. Anything else to bring out from the staff reports?
When you said something about that network movement.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah. 335, and it was highlighted for me. Anyway. But yes, we did have LIHEAP. Did you happen to know how many people came for LIHEAP yesterday?
We only have 5 people who got their applications processed. Originally, there were supposed to be 9. So that was either everybody didn't show up or people couldn't get their applications processed for whatever reason.
Interesting. Okay. And as you can see, all of our staff members have really been making really good use of their colleagues in talk, toy, etc. Because no need to reinvent the wheel. I think we're making much better use of those memberships than we have been in the past. So that's really nice. Yeah. If there was anything else I wanted to bring up. Very helpful stuff. Follow us on Facebook. Okay, our investment policy. We have presented with proposed changes to our investment policy, and we have discussed them. Is there a motion to approve the proposed revisions to the investment policy as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any additional discussion?
Yeah, what are you specifically referring?
So the email.
And that's what happened.
Yeah. would be revisions to the existing, investment proposal. Policy. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the revisions, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Trustee Moser?
Along with the revisions. So
It is unanimous. New business. Trustee Castile McNally.
So I don't know if everybody else was getting these emails, but over the course of the last month, I've been contacted by a number of our constituents asking that we get involved in this National Wildlife Federation. It's called the Mayor's Monarch Pledge. It's a program that started a number of years ago in which local or tribal governments do three things. It's done on an annual basis, where you essentially can re-up year after year. Some choose to and some don't. But the three things are: you sign the pledge noting concern regarding the decline in monarch butterfly populations and committing to take steps with respect to the restoration of monarch habitats. The second thing is that you select 3 action items, and Larisha helped us to print off a list of those action items. That's from the website. There are a great number of them to choose from. And then the third thing is you report back at the end of the year. What you get for this, besides doing the right thing, is we would be highlighted, the township would be highlighted on this website. And we would have a little blurb about us, and it shows when you signed and the action items that you're working on and stuff like that. I dug in a little bit. Glencoe and Winnetka both did this in March of 2021. Wilmette did this in March of 2022. Glenview has done this in 2021, 2022, and 2023. In our state, there are 4 different townships that have done this. Nunta Township, Schaumburg Township, Niles Township, and I don't know if it's Coral or Corral Township. It's the Union, it's McHenry County.
What was the first one you mentioned?
Nunta, N-U-N-D-A, Crystal Lake. Okay. I think that this would be a great opportunity for some interagency cooperation. This could be something that we involve, scouting, community service. We could get, some of our partner agencies involved in various ways. A number of, our local communities have already undertaken some of these efforts. And so there are, some of the action items are, engage with other, groups that are doing stuff like this. So, I think that this would be simultaneously the right thing to do for a declining population of pollinators. It's something that, a number of, other local groups have taken on, and, we would both be doing good and be looking good at the same time. So if this is something that we are interested in, I would be happy to take point on this. And what I would propose doing is that, obviously not for next month because we've got the annual meeting, but that I could come back to the group in May, with, proposed action items and where I see potential groups that, we could work with, or some things we could do, excuse me. And, we could, make a, more fulsome decision at that point. But I did not want to move forward besides what I've already done without kind of the thumbs up from the group that this is something that we're actually interested in.
And I will say that townships love monarch butterflies. Like it's like all the toy things. So it's mostly for those who have highways, and are planting pollinating corridors. We do not have a highway, so it just hasn't come up very much. I did do a continuing legal ed presentation on townships and environmentalism. So I did dig further into the use of townships on weeds, and that's apparently one of the original uses was for townships was addressing noxious weeds. And so there's a lot in the statutes about that. We don't really cover that either. But it is something that the townships have been really kind of pushing as well. I could see some of these actions working well for us. You had mentioned giving away seeds.
Yeah, rather than at the, Fourth of July parades or at the Memorial Day parades, throwing out candy or handing out plastic flags, that we could do seed packets for, milkweed. Maybe with a QR code on the back where, learn about the Mayor's Monarch Pledge and, here's how to get more involved with, the township. That's just the first thing that came to mind, but, I'd be interested in kind of looking into this more. And this is something that I know a number of the schools do stuff with around here. And so I feel like this would be a way to bring some more attention in a positive way to the township and our mission. And I'm very glad that the constituents that brought it to my attention did.
Absolutely. Yes.
I'm not sure it's the business of the township to get involved in this, to be quite candid. And I also would be concerned about our constituents who are anti-environmentalists, because this is clearly an environmental position being taken, if you will, by the board. And so those are my concerns.
There are certainly those who would be against general assistance, and those who would be against childcare subsidies.
Or having health care here in the township, in the building for anybody.
Right.
I mean, you can always find somebody to say, I don't like it.
Absolutely.
Well, the first thing I did is I looked at our mission again and our guiding principles. And it's a bit of a stretch, but it falls within there. I mean, we're talking about oxygen, we're talking about green, we're talking about, things that help enhance the quality of life for everybody. So I think that you could make an argument that this falls within. It's, again, a township that does do roads and parkways and plantings and stuff like that, clearly. For us, it's a little bit more of a stretch, but I think the thing that I'd like to see is where are these action items, and none of us have had a good chance to really review the action items.
They were in the packet.
Yeah, I didn't look at it, I'll be honest with you. But you're gonna come back to us, Kate, and tell us where you think there's a few, we have to do 3 of them, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna find 3 that you think are reasonable and not too onerous that we might be able to manage.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we should keep an open mind and see where this goes.
And keeping in mind our mission, of course.
Yes, our mission and our guiding principle.
There was a lady who came in here like 5 years ago with this exact thing. She had the little seeds. Because it was like an independent company that she was working with, but it's the exact same thing.
The only thing I would follow up is, why is it that, you mentioned a couple municipalities that did it for 1 year and 1 year only. Why is it that those municipalities only did it for the 1 year and they're not doing it on?
That's why I would, investigate further over the course of the next 2 months.
Yes.
But I did not, especially, with the kind of the mark of the township, I didn't want to move forward and start asking questions and possibly raising questions unless, this is something that the rest of the board is interested in.
If I recall, it sounds like the village of Glenview has done it 3 years running.
Correct.
But Winnetka and maybe Wilmette only did it 1 year each.
Glencoe and Winnetka did it in 2021 and Wilmette did it in 2022.
And I want to know why Glencoe and Winnetka didn't continue. And why, that would be of something interesting.
And a few years ago, Jerome could actually help you with this probably, if I'm remembering correctly. The speaker at one of the, at the annual clerk's dinner was a man, I don't know what organization he was affiliated with, but he was pushing, he was pushing milkweed for monarchs. And it was, I want to say it was maybe 2016, 15, 16, 17, somewhere in there. But as I say, Jerome might remember who it was, because he was he was a man that, let's say, if you looked at him, you would not exactly identify him with getting practically teary-eyed about the fact that the monarch population was in decline. He just didn't look like the type. And he was totally invested in it. And made quite a hit at the dinner too, I might add.
So I think we are in line to entertain a motion to table the monarch pledge pending investigation.
Don't so moved.
Is there a second? Second. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Before we adjourn, I will just give you a heads up. So remember, next month we will be at our annual meeting. We have approved our agenda. I hope to see you all there. You all have speaking rules now. So it'll be happy. As well, so then we will not be having our regular board meeting, which means that we will be approving 2 months of financials at the following board meeting. We will also at that meeting be appointing the decennial committee. So keep an eye out for that. You all get appointed to it by statute. But I will also be adding additional community members. So if you have anyone who you would like to put their name forward, please let me know. I will likely put out a Google Doc. You know, I love them. A form, so that anyone can put their name forward as well. But that is to review our governmental agreements, our current policies, and ensure that we are the most efficient we can be. And Toy has now put out a model for that endeavor. All right. Do we have a motion? Oh, yes.
So I wanted to speak with everybody about how you feel about the board packets. Mailing the board packets, emailing the board packets. How do we feel about that moving forward? Now, we started emailing over COVID when we were virtual. I don't know how everybody feels. I know that there are sometimes tons of attachments like there are today. There's a huge board packet. How do you feel about just having it emailed? How do you feel about it being mailed to you, or do you want to continue to do both?
I love getting the hard copy, I have to be honest with you. It just, if we didn't get it, we'd have to print it all ourselves. You know? It's just wonderful to get it, and getting it like on Friday or Monday is usually fine. Friday would even be better, but just how much work is it for you to send hard copy?
Right now, I have to do all the copies. I have to put everything on the website, and I have to email it. So it's quite time consuming. If I could eliminate one of those, it would be great. I don't mind.
Not the website.
Right. I've been doing this for a long time, so it's have a process.
I would prefer hard copies over email just because I'm somebody who likes to take notes on stuff.
Yeah.
And I have not figured out the right way to do the notes on a PDF that, you know, works for me yet.
Yeah. The website, it's always going to be on the website. So when I send you guys the materials over email, at that point, everything is already on the website. If you need to reference anything that's on the agenda, because I'm always going to send the agenda.
We seem to be getting consistently now, and thank you so much for your show. We seem to be getting an email every Thursday, and we seem to be getting the hard copy tends to arrive either on Saturday or Monday. But
Depending on the US Postal
I mean, but I agree with Kate. I love the hard copy.
Okay.
All right. That seems to be the consensus.
Okay.
And on my position.
I have one item of new business.
Yes, sir.
Talked about it last time. I mean, I looked at, so I dug into my material, and we did have stuff that was sent out a couple years ago on administrative salaries in other townships. And I know that supervisors a full-time job in other townships, but those salaries go 60, 75, 90, some are even in the six-figure range. Gail, I know you're part-time, but the amount of work you're doing, especially, you know, as demonstrated by the output here, the salary just has not been changed for years. And it needs to be, even as a part-time salary in the $25,000 to $30,000 range, and I'm prepared to move. That it'd be bumped up to $30,000, and I'd move for that tonight.
So it's not on the agenda.
Look, let's get it on the agenda that it be moved to $30,000 for next meeting.
The next time.
So
that we
yeah,
entertain that.
You can't do it.
You can't do it.
You can't.
What statute says that you discuss salaries of
For elected officials.
elected officials 6 months prior to the next election.
Can we put it on the agenda then for that 6-month meeting?
That's in a year and a half.
That's in
September, October of 2024.
2020.
I just wanna make
Yeah.
sure it gets on the agenda.
Between you and I, we'll
Try to
hopefully.
remember that.
Vote, do we need to vote now to put it on the agenda? Because if we do, let's vote.
No,
Okay.
any member of the board can request something on the agenda.
Okay.
So, there you go.
Yes,
Unless Gail comes back.
she may not come back, but I'm
That's
saying
something
that.
benefit, so.
No, I don't care who it benefits. She's raised the bar so high. I don't see the next supervisor suddenly saying, okay, we're in overdrive, we're not gonna do anything. I mean, clearly you've changed the job description in what you've done. And I don't know whether you're coming back or not. I just think that the salary is just, it's so out of disproportion to the workload and to the output that it needs to be addressed. And it's unfortunate that we have to wait a year and a half to do it, but I'd rather get it on the record right now that we are gonna do it than just keep pushing it under the rug, and nothing ever any gets. Yeah.
I appreciate that, and we shall have it on the agenda at the appropriate time.
Everybody has also some paperwork from Julie for the annual town meeting. I'd appreciate it if you can, if you made your revisions, if you can put them in this folder. Kate gave them hers, if we can pass it around the table.
Sure. Larissa don't have any.
Yes,
She doesn't have my dates. And I don't know what they are myself, so can that be figured out by somebody? Like Jerome probably knows.
when
When
you
you
started.
When I started and I
There you
ended
go.
the first.
I didn't know you did that.
And then came back to second.
That's for all
It
you.
might,
I
would we
think-
have put it in
I
the
think
career?
it was May of 2005 that I started.
Yes, it was, I
And
told
I
her
think
that.
it was May of 2018, when I.
That's when Kevin Boyd left.
That's what I want to try to figure out.
Yeah, you came back when Kevin Boyd left. All of the years are blurring together.
2020.
Yeah,
So
it
if
was
I'm
definitely,
you can figure it out.
yeah, I gave her the first date. She just might have left it out.
All right, we are now in line for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second,
Second.
all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are now adjourned.
Sometimes step on in 20.